Hello, it is I, Tim, with Marsgohome, and right now we need to take some crispy audio and crap it up to accompany our crappy VHS quality video. I'll be using Adobe Audition in this tutorial, but you can use whatever DAW you prefer. All the same techniques will apply. So okay, we made our rad VHS video. Now we need to import it into Audition, which I've already done here. You can do that by going to File, Import, double-clicking, right-clicking, or using the shortcut Control-I. There's many ways to import. So now let's create a new multi-track project or session. And we can do that by clicking this button right here. And let's name it Crappy VHS. Find a location. We're going to not use a template. For the sample rate, we were going to keep it at 22050, and the bit depth, unfortunately we can't go to 8, so we're just go to lowest we can, which is 16, and you can keep it mono or stereo if you'd like, totally up to you. I will keep it in stereo for now. Hit OK. Now, in most use cases, you'll be working with audio only. But in this example, since I have some crunchy video errors and tracking issues, I'll import the video so we can go overboard and have some totally unnecessary fun with it. So let's create a video track. Go to Multitrack, Tracks, Add Video Track. Now it gives us a video reference. I'll toggle down this video, which I have, and I will grab our video and just throw this onto the timeline. And I will take our audio track and I will throw that onto track 1. Now it may throw an error saying it doesn't match our sample rate, and that's okay. Just hit OK and it will create a new file essentially. So we have our little video preview here down at the very bottom. If you don't see it, just go to Windows, go down to Video, and just enable it. Reference, I'm going to hover over the video area here and hit the tilde key, make it full screen, just play through it. Let's see what we have.
You've asked for it, and we listened. Finally, a spray with more than 3 pumps. Hair buddy spray. A spray buddy with more pumps.
All right, it's a little commercial I made quickly. I think I spent like a total of 15 minutes on it, but it is glorious. All right, now one of the characteristics of VHS tape is it never really handles the highs and the lows very well. And we tend to lose those frequencies, especially the more the tape is played. There's definitely a generational degradation over time. I like to use the parametric EQ personally, but any EQ will do the trick. Over here in our effects rack, let's click this little arrow, go to Filter and EQ, down to Parametric Equalizer. Now on the Parametric EQ, I will enable the high pass filter. Now it sounds counterintuitive, but the high pass filter cuts the lows and lets only the highs through. Same thing with the low pass filter. It cuts the highs and lets only the lows through. So I will enable both of these. We can use a preset here if we'd like. That would be too easy, and we like to make life harder. I like to start by placing the low pass filter at about 4,000. And let's just play through this real quick.
You've asked for it, and we listened. Finally, a spray with more than 3 pumps. Hair buddy spray.
Now let's mess with the high pass filter. I like to start around 50 Hertz. Let's do a quick preview.
You've asked for it, and we listened. Finally, a spray with more than 3 pumps.
Let's go ahead and close this out. Now let's add a tad bit of distortion. Analog clipping sounds are different than digital clipping. When analog hits that clipping point, which we see here in the red, or right here, it sounds more like distortion, whereas digital sounds scratchy and clicky and poppy. Trust me, those are professional terms. Now let's go to our effects rack, and on the second one, let's go to Special Distortion. I'll move the positive just a hair up. Same thing with the negative, I'll move that just a hair down. Let's do a quick preview.
You've asked for it, and we listened. Finally, a spray with more than 3 pumps. Hair buddy spray. A spray buddy with more pumps.
Trick is to just make it subtle enough to where it's there, but not overboard. It's easy to go overboard on this. This would be probably overboard.
You've asked for it.
Yeah.
And we listened. Finally, a spray with more than 3 pumps. Hair Buddy spray.
All right. So we got a little bit of distortion to it. So now we need to create that airy hiss sound. And I've spent hours upon hours trying to get rid of tape hiss on recordings. So in one of life's cruel ironies, here we are adding it on purpose. So let's do that. Let's go to Effect, Generate, Noise. Come up here and it brings us a new audio file. We'll call this Pink Noise. We'll bring the sample rate. We'll keep it down to 2205. We'll change this to mono and change the bit depth all the way to 8. Let's go ahead and hit OK. It'll bring up this little dialog box. Under the color section here, make sure we have pink selected. Pink noise is what gives us that hissing sound. It can resemble the sound of a steady rainfall, wind, or even that sweet, sweet sound of bacon cooking. It's the more soothing sound of the colors. I heard it can help with sleep too. Pun totally intended. I'm going to go ahead and set this intensity to 30, which is going to be pretty loud. Now if we want it subtle, let's bring it down to 10. See what that sounds like. We can even bring it down lower. Let's keep it around 5 for now. Now under our duration, let's make sure we are at 17 seconds, and we can tell right over here under our duration here we're a little under 17 seconds, so we'll keep it 17 for now. Let's click OK, and now it threw our pink noise here. Now let's add one more piece of generated noise. So on track 3, let's select it and add one more piece of tone to this. We'll call this tone noise, mono, bit depth of 8, hit OK. Under the shape, waveform shape here, let's select triangle/sawtooth. Let's go ahead and drop the frequency to, about 60. This will generate some sort of line noise coming from the VCR or the cables. Now before I hit OK, I'd like to show you some cool things to do here. Sometimes the VCR has bad connections on the RCA cable. Maybe the connections themselves are worn out and the soldering points on the board are breaking away. If we change the type percentage, we can increase that line noise. So feel free to really dive into the nastiness of this tone. I'll keep it at 50%. Again, on our duration, let's go ahead and make this 17 seconds. Hit OK, and let's slide this over. Let's go ahead and give it a listen.
You've asked for it. And we listened. Finally, a spray with more than 3 pumps. Hair Buddy spray. A spray buddy with more pumps.
Now you can play with the volume on each track and just get it to your taste and to your liking. If we look at our footage, we can see that we start off with some TV snow. So let's select our track 2, which is our pink noise, and toggle the read section here. Under the show envelopes, we have a selection of volume here, and we can stretch this out. This line here, a lot like in Premiere, will allow us to add points and automate the volume of the track. So make sure that the Move tool is selected by hitting V or selecting this arrow here. And let's just go towards the end of our, I'll make this a little bit bigger, of our snow until everything comes in. Let's add a point here, and right next to it we'll add another point. Let's drag this volume all the way up.
You've asked for it.
Let's see what that sounds like.
You've asked for it.
Let's start off quiet, have it fade in real quick.
You've asked for it. And we listened.
And what we're going to be doing is sculpting the volume of this.
You've asked for it. And we listened.
Maybe we can drop it, have it come in super sharp, and just slightly drop it. So here's another spot to where it goes out. Zoom in. Let's add a point there and a point there so we can make it a sharp volume. before I do that, I like to come towards the end and add 2 points. So now, if I highlight these two, at the same time, I can drag them up at the same volume.
More than 3 pumps.
Maybe add a point in here. We can just randomly drop the volume.
More than 3 pumps.
You know, something like that. This is a bit extreme.
More than 3 pumps.
Let's come towards the end here because we have some
Spray buddy with pumps.
same thing. As if the tape went off. I can select these at the same time. Scoot it over. Let's go ahead and toggle that volume switch down. Under our track 1, which we can name this, we can call this main audio. On our track 2, let's name this pink noise. And track 3, tone. Now, here's a trick that I like to do. Right after our distortion layer, I'm going to go to Effects, the Filter and EQ, and add another parametric EQ here. And I'm just going to close it out. Under the Show Envelopes, we can go all the way down to the second parametric EQ. And I'm going to select the Low Shelf Gain. So what this will allow us to do is essentially making it sound kind of warping in and out on the highs and the lows. So let's do this, and we only need to worry about it at the very beginning to where it kind of slopes in.
You've asked for it.
And then we can do the same thing, parametric EQ, and go to the high shelf gain, which is this pink line here, and we can raise this up just a little bit.
You've asked for it.
And we can always just sculpt the audio. That's all we're doing at this point.
You've asked for it. You've asked for it.
This is all about being creative. You just want to play with the audio and the sound. Take your time, and all you're really doing is sculpting the sound to your liking. Of course, this is an extreme example, but I just want to show all the different ways of making your audio sound like crap. Another thing we can do is, since this is one of them high-tech VCRs or VHS tapes, is we can also mess with the panning, the left and the right. And if you need to, you can hover over these lines and they'll show you exactly what they are. So let's cut out the right side.
You've asked for it.
There you go.
You've asked for it.
Then it finally shows up. Another thing we can do is have it spike to the left more and then drop to, and it's calibrating itself.
You've asked for it.
And we can do the same thing over here. Another effect we can do is kind of give it that emulation of analog tape slowing and speeding up. And how we can do that is kind of just play with the pitch and shift it just ever so slightly up or down. And we can do that by going to the arrow here in our effects racks and going to time and pitch and selecting pitch shifter. We're going to keep everything at its default because at its default it won't change anything. We want to change it on our own. So again, we're going to go to Show Envelopes and down to, we can always hide these so we're not so confused. Uncheck them. So all we have is the transpose ratio. So this pink line is going to move things up. Just an example.
You've asked for it.
Or we can slow it down.
You've asked for it.
And we're just going to slightly morph this over the entire video. And I'll make this super extreme.
You've asked for it.
There you go.
And we listened.
So let's do our crazy parts first. The tracking issues.
Spray with more than 3 pumps.
Let's bring this up. Something like this. Let's see.
Spray with more than 3 pumps. Hair buddy spray.
There we go.
A spray buddy with more pumps.
And we can do the same thing right here. It speeds up and drops. Let's give everything a shot here.
You've asked for it. And we listened. Finally, a spray with more than 3 pumps. Hair buddy spray. A spray buddy with more pumps.
I'm going to go ahead and just do a few things over it. And I'll just speed through this. All right, so let's hear the crap that we just made.
You've asked for it. And we listened. Finally, a spray with more than 3 pumps. Hair buddy spray. A spray buddy with more pumps.
Beautifully turd-like. I love it. Let's quickly export what we have just created. What we're going to do is we're going to come up to File, Export, Multi-Track, Entire Session. This will export just the audio so we can import it back into our NLE of choice. So what we're going to do here is we'll name it. Right now we'll just keep it mixed down. We'll find a location. We are going to choose Wave format. Now for the sample type, here's the interesting thing. We can move it to 48 Hertz so we can import it into our NLE of choice. In my case, it's going to be a Premiere. Now for the bit depth, I want to keep it at either at 24 or 16 bit, especially if I'm importing it into, say, Premiere for a final export. If we do 8, it will introduce its own noise sampling, as you can hear right here, versus 24 bit, less noise. So let's choose 24, hit OK, and then we will hit OK. Now you have your beautiful rendered audio. If you found any of this helpful or useful, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel a lot. You know the thing. Until next time, young scholars, stay rad, stay cool, stay creative.
Spray buddy with more pumps.